Hi. I wanted to take a minute to explain a little bit more about what my foundation session is so that if you are looking at it or interested in it, you know what to expect. So my foundation session is really designed for people who know they want to write a book, but want to build a really strong foundation so that it's successful. What I find is a lot of times people say, I want to write a book. And they'll just sit down and look at their blank paper and start typing away. And every once in a while, they'll create an outline, but don't really know what that should look like. Or they get fearful because they remember high school or college and what it looked like for them then. So in this foundation session, we keep it very simple, and it's not academic. It's meant to work with you the way that you work in order to get your book done. Some of the things that we cover in the foundation session is your goals. First of all, we want to look at what your goals are to make sure that they're feasible, they make sense, there's interest, so that you're not spending a lot of time writing a book that isn't going to serve you or serve your target audience. Next, we're going to be looking at who your target reader is. It's oftentimes your ideal client, but not always. If you're writing a nonfiction, more than likely it's going to work that way. But if you're writing a memoir, this might be very different. And same thing with a fiction. Who you're writing for as a fiction audience is going to determine your genre. We're also going to be looking at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in regards to your writing ability, the resources that you have, and anything that potentially could get in your way. We talk about those so that when we make an action plan for you going forward, you have what you need easily accessible to you. We all have everything that we need, but in identifying the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, it might mean that you need to get a little bit more support in certain areas, including remembering what you already have as a strength. We also start to look at what your hook will be, what will get people interested in your book and keep you moving forward and writing it. It becomes your why, and it becomes what keeps you pushing forward because you know that the impact that you're going to make with your book and how you're going to grab your reader's interest and pull them into the story. We're going to go through your outline, and your outline can look very different than what you may have been taught in the past. And how your outline looks will have a lot to do with you and your learning style and how we work together. In the foundation sessions, we're working one-on-one to build this outline, and it will be something that you are able to refer back to time and again when you're looking at that blank screen or blank paper and have time to write. We're going to look at your characters, which for those of you writing nonfiction might be surprised to know that, but your characters are still an important part, because there are times that we want to introduce characters and other times we don't. We want to make sure that the stories that we're telling make sense and which ones need to bridge the gaps from story to story. And if we have too many characters, it can get really messy. So we want to talk about what stories and characters we're going to introduce and why. We're also going to talk about setting. For many people in nonfiction, setting isn't particularly critical other than establishing your expertise in your chosen field. Your setting for memoir is rather important because it usually involves your place of origin, where you grew up, but it may not. Your setting may also include your work environment or where you live now. So we look at the different settings that might make it into your book and talk about some things around those as far as timeline goes. Which brings us to the next point, which is timeline. We talk more about the timeline that we're going to cover in your book. So in a nonfiction, we're really going to look at the years or decades that we're going to be including in your story. And that's the same thing in memoir. In memoir, there's a misconception that you start at birth, but there's really not a point in that for everybody. And there's no way that you can tell your story until the day you die, because at that time you're no longer able to write your book. So we talk about timeline and what we really want to capture. So that's all what's covered in the foundation session. There's a lot of work that needs to be done prior to writing your book to really set it up for a good, strong foundation. The foundation session can be used for memoir and fiction, as well as nonfiction. And it's a great way for people to get started on the book writing process without a huge time or financial commitment, and be able to build some resources for a successful start. It's a great option for people who really want to do it themselves without the additional support of a book coach. But those who do the foundation session and decide they want to work with me further as a book coach do get discounted sessions going forward. So that's all for you to consider. And if you have any questions, please reach out. I'd love to help. Thanks.